I'm Chris Sauls, and this is Thinking Thursday, a podcast for engineers, coders, sysadmins, architects, and tech leaders who build the backbone of the modern world. This is for those who think in systems, dream in frameworks, and lead with curiosity. We don't just adapt to disruption, we anticipate it. We architect the future, even when the rest of the world doesn't understand what we're building. We're the ones who stay up late refactoring the solution because good enough never sits right. We are allergic to mediocrity, restless with routine, and wired for iteration, impact, and innovation. We aren't just surviving the AI wave, we're riding it, reimagining our careers, rewriting our companies, and re-engineering what leadership looks like in the world of layoffs, lean teams, and limitless change. Sure, we've been burned by broken systems, bad bosses, and bureaucracy masquerading as process, but we don't stop because we know something others don't. Every problem is solvable. Every system can scale. Every setback is a signal. While most are stuck obeying outdated org charts and titles, we lead from anywhere, from the code base, from the cloud, from the crisis. We are the self-leading, systems-thinking, impact-driven architects of what's coming next. And we don't wait for permission, we build it anyway. This is Thinking Thursday for the tech minds who lead with heart, grow through change, and never stop thinking. Hey friends, welcome to Thinking Thursday. I am your host, Chris Sauls, and today we are going to tackle the topic of quantum computing. I don't know if saying tackle that topic is the right way to put it, but we're going to get into the quantum computing and not the hype of it, not the stock spikes, not even the PR releases, but are you actually preparing for quantum computing and how that's going to affect you? As well as open AI, we're going to discuss that a bit. You know, guys, I talk about that pretty much every week about something about AI. I get it that the quantum computing seems like science fiction, but it's not. The disruption is coming. I just had a chance to interact with a group this week that meets here in Raleigh. They do quantum computing and they get together and they discuss and they develop and they build things and they really move forward with that. And I think in my mind is there are groups out there doing that. Now that's probably on the cutting edge. Maybe for some of you that probably leads to the bleeding edge of where technology is. The fact is though, what are you learning about it? How is it going to affect your role? I've been talking about automation for nearly, coming up on 3 decades here shortly of the first thing that I ever automated. The simple fact is automation, AI, quantum computing, it is advancing our technology platforms, our technology abilities much more rapidly than we thought. And I think for many of us in the industry, this is the fastest pace we've ever seen. Now, maybe someone out there's seen something faster, but I'm going to just say it now. I know I haven't seen a time where things are rapidly evolving. That comes with several pros. It also comes with several cons. I have a friend of mine that mentioned recently, software releases today for security updates and all of the other reasons things get updated. They often show up and are broken. They come, they fix the one thing they say they're going to fix, but then you find out there's 5 other features now that are broken. And that may be exaggerating it in each case, but there are times where I've definitely seen one feature that's now working in an entire background of features that just aren't even remotely close to what they were before. So today we're going to break down what not to fear, but what to build. So let's get into it. I want you to picture your technical skills. Hang on a second. I want you to picture your skills like a house. I want you to think of your core technical skills. Those are your foundation. And then you've got the wiring, how everything communicates and connects throughout that house, how that works, right? And then you've got the roof, your mindset and your culture of learning, the parts that really, make you step forward and get into that next thing, what really helps you to do that. I'm sure you got those things, right? We got a foundation, which is your core technical skills, the things that you really, day to day. And then you have your wiring, the communications that occurs not only with the people, but also with your APIs and your integrated systems. And then you have the roof. And that's your mindset. What are you setting your mind toward with all of these technology items that are changing right now? Quantum computing, as we were talking about. All of these things play a role, right? So let's start with the foundation. This should be stuff that you already know, but you may need to level it up for this next evolution coming with the quantum computing. Maybe you're on a platform as a service team, and now suddenly quantum computing is coming into your space. Maybe you haven't seen it yet, but you know that the business is talking about it. What are you learning now that you could start to really, get there? So let's ask yourself a few questions. Do I really understand the current systems and how they interact? That question for me in my career has come up so many times with integrations. We often bring in multiple systems that are complex, each one individually, but then when you combine them, the complexity goes up. And if you don't understand the first system very well, and then you integrate it into another system, there's a moment where now the complexity is just skyrocketed and you get errors and you're not sure where to start looking. So there's a real reason to make sure you understand how your systems interact. Big one, really probably should have been the number one point I touched on here. Am I building secure, scalable software? Or am I just shipping what works? Now, I'm going to say that to you. I think about this week, well, in the past 2 weeks, I've worked on something that was for me and my business that actually helps with identifying people's personality types and giving them kind of a front door to understanding how they communicate. And there's another way to even look at that, to understand life from a different perspective, to see it from a different way. But as I worked on that, I had to connect in API connections. I had to work on different systems that I hadn't used before. Knew they existed, but I haven't worked on them. So multiple APIs, multiple connections. Worked on that for a few days and produced something within 3 or 4 days that was actually working and now is up and going and available for people to use right now. I can look at my past. That probably would have taken much longer just to get the interface and everything going where it was available. But the thing is it secure? And that was one of the things I started with. When I first did the prototype, I was just doing it on like the basic setup. And then I wanted it to be secure. So my next step was I had to move everything to an API, something that could manage the API, the keys and everything in a private manner so that nothing was exposed. Also, the data that people were submitting, that it was actually on secure channels. So excited that that got done. But if I hadn't thought about security, I possibly would have gone with the lowdown method or the easier method. And, that would have left everything exposed, not only for myself, but it would have left things exposed for those that decided to take the assessment. All right. Other things. Can you explain concurrency and distributed thinking in plain language? Now I'm going to tell you up front. I'm not going to try to explain either one of those here right now because I don't think I can explain either one of those very well in plain language right now. But that's a truth. And here's the real truth of it. You don't need to go back to school right now. But if you're not touching secure design, system architecture, data flow weekly, that is a flag. Here's a move you can make this week, something you can do for yourself. Block off 20 minutes. Pick one concept, like post-quantum encryption. My gracious, is that a big topic? Or system observability. That is one of the number one requirements I think people are forgetting when they're doing any of the things that they're building right now that they're really tinkering around with. If you can't observe the system properly, it makes it really difficult to iron out the complexity levels, right? So system observability is huge, and it's really something that you have to pay attention to. All right. Your future self will thank you if you do that 20 minutes. Just keep that in mind. Something to keep you moving, guys. All right. Now let's talk about the wiring. We just talked about the foundation. Now we're going to talk about the wiring, how your tools, your thinking, your work connects. This really gets into something that I know I've talked to multiple people about throughout my career, And it's back to this integration pieces, right? One of the skills that I picked up over the years was being able to explain something that I was doing to a non-technical person and not lose them. We in the tech world, we have an entirely different language set. We speak in TLAs, triple letter acronyms, nowadays maybe 4-letter acronyms, but we speak in different languages. And when we're doing that techno babble, we lose people that are not. And we might be providing them with a solution. So if you can't talk to the person that you're presenting your solution to and tell it to them in their language in a way that they can understand it, that is something you need to work on. Can I make tools talk through APIs? Just talked about that. Automation and integrations. If you integrate two things together, you need to be able to either via API or via some other connectivity that you've done, either automation, maybe you connected things together. If you could do that, can you explain it? Do you understand it? And did you make it observable? Things to think about, right? Am I collaborating across teams or hiding in my lane? Many years now, I've worked with infrastructure teams, excuse me. And as I've worked with infrastructure teams, I have found myself realizing that there's a lot of people in tech, they want to be behind the scenes. And as we want to be behind the scenes, we want to do the job, we want to do a great job, and we want to help people, but we want to stay behind the scene, behind the team or behind the scenes and outside of other people's teams. And let me get my words straight. If you do that and you don't learn how to be a cross-functional communicator between different functions within your business, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting those other teams. You need to be able to work with others. You need to understand what they need and how they operate. It's very easy for the people on the infrastructure team not to know how the customer service support team that uses all of the infrastructure underneath there to provide support to the customers. Not understanding that and not knowing how to communicate what we're doing on the infrastructure or versus what they're doing on their side or vice versa. If you don't know how to communicate that, you may not be able to support them very well. You can support them better if you can communicate that. All right, back to quantum. It is going to create new bridges between hardware, software, and human logic. There's no doubt that this is going to change the way we function in certain areas inside the tech world. It's also going to really, really change how people do things because it's going to be fast. It's also going to break faster. And that's something we're going to have to know. These things will definitely, they're going to change a lot about how we do things. So translate what you're working on into one sentence. This is something to try tomorrow. Translate what you're working on into one sentence a non-tech person could understand. If you struggle with that, that's an area that you need to grow. That's an area of growth. And that's a place where you can actually work on. And it's not difficult to do. You got plenty of tools out there today that can help you with that. I mean, if you're in a corporation right now, probably Microsoft Teams, you've got Copilot, you've got it accessible there. Use it to break the topic down, not only to help yourself, but to help the person that you're trying to explain it to. Remember, translation is leadership. If you can translate ideas, you can lead. You've got to be able to translate the ideas. It's like casting vision. You could have a great vision, but if you can't explain it well, and you can't break it down to just the masses where they can get it right away, it's going to make it difficult. Okay, jumping into our next piece, the roof. We've talked about the foundation. We've talked about the wiring. Now we're talking about the roof. And this is your mindset and your learning culture. I've got something that I have been working on for years that has progressed my career, that's helped me. I've shared it with others. It's just in time learning. And there's never been a better time. I know I was at a conference several years back and Rachel Hollis made a comment. She's telling people in the room, There is nothing today that you cannot learn via YouTube. If you go to YouTube, I would be I'd be hard pressed to believe that there's not somebody that's talked on a subject that you may want to learn about. And if not there, using the internet, you can find someone that has a course, free course, most likely, free videos to at least get you up on the basics. So there is no reason today that you can't learn the things you need to. So I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you learned something new on purpose? Not because the market was driving you there, not because your job told you you had to know it, but something you learned new for yourself, maybe to progress your career, but it wasn't pushed upon you. Are you building out curiosity into your schedule? Are you taking time, thinking time, such as what I'm doing right now, like just really sharing what I've been thinking about in this area, uh, not getting too deep into the quantum computing right now. I am still learning. I'm on an infancy step of that, like seeing what the companies are bringing and seeing, who the players are and how they're integrating into things. All I can say for me is speed wise, what I've seen results that they're showing, I can only imagine what it'll be like for us in 5 years, how quickly we'll be able to react with observability and with AI agents and how all of these things will come to play. But how much faster will technology grow? Not only that, but like self-healing technology that when there is a defect or security, that it can self-heal. I mean, how exciting is that? The other thing is ask yourself, do I have permission to fail forward? You have to give yourself permission to fail forward. But if the company you're working with and those around you that's not built into the culture, you got to talk to them about it because you have to have that space to fail forward. You have to have that space to test and try out things. And I know a lot of times with infrastructure teams, and I know I'm leaning in on infrastructure because I'm talking about quantum computing, because there in that space, you're going to need places to test. You're going to need places to try things out. But don't try to look perfect. If you don't know, just say it. If you don't understand it, just say it. Go learn about it. But don't be afraid if somebody drops out a term that you haven't heard to be like, hey, could you define that? Because I haven't heard that term yet. I have been there. I have seen things re-termed, things that have changed terms in the industry that originally it was called one thing and then it's called something else 5 years later. And because I wasn't at that company, the company I was at used the old name. The company I went to used the new name. You have to ask these questions, folks. You got to just ask it. All right. Here's something you can try, something you can do in your next block. And if you're doing agile, you understand what I mean by block. If you're not doing agile and you're doing this on your own, set up a curiosity sprint once a month, 1 hour, no slides, no PKIs, one person shares a future tech concept. You can do that for yourself and you're just exploring. I had someone tell me not too many months back during a conversation is I really do like to explore when I'm speaking. I like to explore into topics and dig into things and to see where it goes and where it lands because I like to hear other ideas from other people. So you may ask yourself, why do I need to set up a curiosity sprint? You do not want to wait till quantum computing is mainstream before you start learning it. Because if you do that, you're going to be behind. And that's where a lot of people have been with AI. And it's not just generative AI. I'm talking everything around AI, using it to help you with your code, things to help you with your communications, things to clean up stuff in your email box where you set up something that knows what to do in there and make sure that you see the emails you should see. Just that alone is like a great helper. And sometimes exactly what's in these email clients, they do a decent job, but man, having an agent doing that really knows you and knows what to look for, light years ahead. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up today. And I am not here to scare you. I'm here to help you build what I call a growth infrastructure. I said it earlier, it's just in time learning system, but it's a growth infrastructure. You do not want to wait to learn the new technologies that are coming out. Doesn't matter what your title is. Doesn't really matter if you're working in tech right now. Really, what I'm saying really applies to anybody that's working in any industry right now. A lot of the things you're going to need to know. You may not need to be a quantum computing expert. You may not need to be an AI expert, but you do need to know that these things exist and how they're going to impact you. If you show up consistently, curiously, and coachable, there is no wave in this world, no technology wave that you can't ride. And that today, my friend, is what I want to pass along to you. Do not miss this current wave that is occurring. This is the biggest evolution in tech that I have seen since I have been in it. And I'm telling you, you've got to be ready. So let's build what's next. And always, thanks for thinking with me on Thinking Thursday.